Hello, hello everyone. Welcome, dear friends, uh, all of you. Welcome here today. Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy and very proud that we are this 4 years after the first launch of Finance in Common to have all of you here in in Dubai. Sorry, this is the first time we organize such a gathering during the I also want to thank our distinguished speakers here and to thank all of them, Ambroise Fayol, Barbara Buchner will come also, Javier Jazz, Pablo Saavedra, and also President Jean Likun from AIB will join us later on. And of course, Remy Rioux as well. Thank you also to our guests for joining us here, as I said. So we will not spend very much time, on this introduction. I'm Adam Americo. I am Secretary General of the Finance in Common movement. Um, all right. I just wanted to take a few minutes to, you know, put on the map what we have done these last years for everyone to, to take the floor here for discussion to come. You can agree that finance in common movement is, has rapidly grown these last years, deepening and widening with new and diverse stakeholders that, work with the community of public development banks. The Finance in Common Summit we organized in Cartagena this year, and Javier will come on that later, was definitely a working summit, and I think we have reached also a point where we had also to bring some solutions and proposals in the international finance discussions. So for those who don't know, Finance in Common is like 530 public development banks in the world. So many of you know already, but the important thing is to understand that we have international development finance institutions, but also national development banks or subnational development banks working in their own areas. Um, Just also to tell you that we have produced a report, and I think that's also something really important to have in mind, as it's a contribution on what public development banks have done so far, and what is our contribution is this international debate on climate, biodiversity, and also solutions for the people. We are releasing today this report, so that outline the main features and strategic initiatives that we have made to help reorienting the financial system towards sustainability and also the partnerships we want to further so far. It also presents the main outcomes that we had in Cartagena and the so-called Cartagena roadmap now you know, and which I will also develop later on. Indeed, 2023 was a very busy year for all of us, a year of consolidation of this movement and growing engagement in the international sphere. Also, discussions we had within the G20 framework and during the summit for new global financial pact in Paris, which also enables us to share strong messages and deliver concrete results in the following areas you will see. So, as you know, Finance in Common is also a place where we want banks to foster the collaboration, even do business together, and we want to also develop it as a marketplace, and also engaging at a policy dialogue level with all the shareholders of these public development banks. We also produce a lot of research, and you know how data is really useful on our work. So this is a public place where also the data is available for everyone, and the research that are produced is on a common good also. And yeah, the summit, we will also come on that. So it's an annual gathering where every year we take stock on what we have done. But of course, beside the summits, we have the working groups, a technical level where everyone can come and share in the business models on the norms we are using and how we further the collaborations together. I just want to also mention the creation of two new coalitions that have been decided also in Cartagena. These coalitions are now launched, and of course, it's all about sustainable finance, and will feed the UN Ocean Conference in Nice in 2025. And the coalition also on sustainable development through culture and arts. I think it's also another way to use our balance sheets for subjects that also matter. These new coalitions are adding on the 10 coalitions we already have. Working on water, on gender, on financing agriculture, etc., etc. So, do really invite everyone to join those coalitions. Not only banks, of course, but even private sector banks, CSOs, think tanks, etc., etc. So it's really useful that we have those coalitions. Also know that we have this coalition, which is really important on how finance cities, resilient cities. And I mentioned this one because it's an important topic that comes very loud this year in this summit. So know that there is already 35 members in this coalition, and of course they are looking for more members if you want to join them. Um, uh, Here is the deliverables we had in Cartagena. So this is not just deliverables, it's a work plan. It's a work plan we have to now commit to. This new financial common SDG coalition will foster a collaborative effort aimed at further defining and elaborating principles for sustainable development investment. This initiative builds upon the foundation laid by the International Development Financial Club, IDFC. And yeah, as you know, we have published a principles, a paper, laying on the principles on investment, aligned investments. So financial tools and innovative solutions. I'm gonna loud my voice as you have this noise. Financial tools and innovative solutions for public development banks is also, there is a large call on that one. So public development banks want to innovate and help the new global financial architecture to emerge, a global financial architecture able to originate more quality projects. So public development banks are exploring innovative strategies to leverage their balance sheets, take more risk, and share them better. So you will hear more from Barbara Buchner later on, discussing about this new financial innovation lab that I will, have a pleasure to tell you that we will be launching. So this will be developed later on, and all the technical, um, um, specificities of this lab will be also be shared with all the members. The third point we have also decided to work on is, how to foster capacity building, the knowledge sharing and technical assistance among peers, among public development banks as well. So this is also to better equip public development banks on their objectives. A benchmark study on technical assistance for public development banks commissioned by the FIX Secretariat, which will be launched during Brazil's G20 presidency and feed into the G20 Sustainable Finance Technical Assistance Plan. So by working together on this topic, we want to ensure that public development banks gain access to invaluable sustainability support and improve performance metric and facilitate creation of high quality projects. So as you know, we also need among ourselves to bring solutions for public development banks, even though they also, offer technical assistance to others. I think there is in some sectors that we also need it ourselves. To mobilize also and join forces with others willing shareholders, stakeholders. This is a call also to broaden the discussion we had among public development banks, but with other stakeholders. And I am glad to announce that Finance in Common has supported also the G Funds Technical Assistance Plan, and there have been strong discussions with the G Funds to say how we can develop joint programs with public development banks and private sector banks. And also all these discussions, and there's a white paper that was issued during the Finance in Common Summit with philanthropies, and it's also a way to dig into this discussion, and they are actually asking to have even a working group with banks within the Finance in Common scheme. Last slide. This is also to look forward after Cartagena. Not only on 2024, but I think Remy also will have the occasion to deep dive on that on our discussions. Just to show you what we have in mind is also in this roadmap. We see it not just for 2024, but in a 2 years scheme. So we want to also build on this important work stream, and we are now reflecting on a series of activities throughout 2024 and 2025. Of course, I mentioned the G20 earlier. You may also have in mind that there is the Olympic in Paris, and we already know that the President Macron has announced the Olympic Sustainable Development Summit. So I think also banks have a role to play on that part. And on 2025, after the fix, of course, that will be this year in Asia, and some of you may know where. Some of you may not know where yet, but you will know anyway today, right? And in 2025, also we have in mind that it's an important year, with the COP 30 in Brazil, and also the fact that in this discussion we have in mind the 2025 agenda on sustainable SDG summit. So I'm going to stop there just to go further as well, to invite here Barbara to develop more on this financial innovation lab. And of course, you are all invited to join this lab. And if you know someone who is also interested, please let them know. Barbara, welcome.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for having me here. It's a real pleasure being here. And I will try to be short and brief here, but I think we're all very excited and really thrilled to be partnering with the Finance in Common. Oops, going in the wrong direction. That's not good. We are partnering. So let me make sure I'm putting the right slides up. Yes. So I'm very excited to be sharing with you some of the news around the development that are surrounding this Finance in Common Financial Innovation Lab, or the FIX Lab, as we call it. We are, again, excited to be partnering with Finance in Common, with the Secretariat, but also with IDB in really developing this initiative and bringing it from vision into reality. Just to set the context a little bit, the FIX Lab is born out of a collaborative understanding and vision of the Finance in Common Summit team and the whole member of Finance in Common, but also IDB and CPI, that to tackle global challenges, what we need is financial innovation. We are very honored and very happy to have also one partner here in the room, to have the support from the Children's Investment Foundation Fund, the CIF, to really make sure and reinforce that through this initiative, we really have a chance to mobilize more capital and scale up investments into climate and sustainable development action. So today, what I want to do very briefly here, and I'm actually only leaving this one slide, is just to talk you through a little bit the key elements of that lab and share with you what we are planning for the next few months. And again, hoping that we will have the input and the feedback and the collaboration of very many of you. So just let me start with the rationale and the operating model of the FIX Lab. What we see as its core goal is of the FIX Lab is that it addresses a critical gap in incubating financial innovation for public development banks, and in this way can really foster some lasting changes in the operating models of public finance. Our own operating model, so the FIX Labs operating model, rests on three specific pillars. The first one is knowledge sharing. The second one is applied knowledge generation. And the third one is assistance to pilots. So just a little bit more context here. This also includes, for example, technical analysis, It includes convenings for peer exchange between members and between those who have experiences. And it also includes a call for ideas for really new innovative solutions for public development banks to really come up with new ways of thinking how we can address some of the risks. One of the defining features of the Fix Lab is its thematic focus. And again, I'm very happy to say that that came out from this year's Financing Commons Summit in Cartagena, where really members were like identifying what are the critical areas that need to be addressed and where innovation is needed. And just very briefly, these are three areas which we will be focusing on in our first year. And just to say also, I think we're very ambitious, but this is what it needs and what it takes at the moment. The first one is around climate risk, so really thinking about addressing challenges through contingent debt clauses, but also through credit lines that are linked to disasters. The second one is around debt for climate swaps, so really exploring innovative solutions that can reduce a country's debt in exchange for a commitment to environmental protection. And the third one is local currency risk, obviously something that is on the agenda of everyone, I think, of us here, and we're all trying to address that, but really thinking about strategies that can mitigate the impact of foreign currency funding on major development projects. What will be key for us and what will be key for the success of this initiative is collaboration. And again, this is why I'm so excited to have so many of you here in the room and hopefully also virtually with us. I think this initiative is really a testament to the global collaboration. It's covering, Adama, as you said, more than 530 public development banks, and they're collectively actually are adds to a full value of around 23 trillion US dollars. So this is a huge potential here. This is a huge power. So we're very excited about that. However, it will not stop there. We will partner with all the members of Fix, but in addition to that, we will make sure that we are building and linking to other initiatives, other entities such as the IDB Green Finance Lab, such as the MDB Challenge Fund, such as the World Bank Private Investment Lab, and such as our own CPI, Global Innovation Lab for Climate Finance, and many other initiatives. And again, many of you here in the room. So this will be an inclusive approach. This will make sure that we really reach out to others and do not reinvent the wheel. This will be to really make some progress in this space and build on what others have already done. Just very briefly, in terms of next steps, again, we want to make sure we do this in the best and the most thorough way. So we will be having an initial, the Fix Lab development will have initial scoping studies. So we will be looking in the next 2 to 3 months, we will be mapping existing innovative practices of Fix members. So we'll be looking what is already ongoing. And we will also be looking into how can we really define best the final legal and organizational structure of the Fix Lab. So we anticipate that the Fix Lab will be operational in spring 2024. Again, I think this is a good balance in terms of timeline, both making sure that we are very thorough in our assessments, build on existing practices, have a very good, strong, robust legal and organizational structure, but at the same time make sure that we are moving towards action on the ground and really coming up with solutions that can help trigger real investments. So just to conclude, again, as you can see, I'm very happy today. So CPI is very happy. We are very proud to be part of this initiative. Been hoping and looking forward to doing something like that since a long time. We just published, in fact, our latest global climate finance landscape that shows some good news. We have, for the first time, crossed the 1 trillion US dollar threshold in terms of global public and private financial flows, but we also show that we still fall far short of where we need to be. And for me, there's no doubt that whether we will be able to mobilize the 9 trillion US dollars that are needed by 2030 to fill the climate finance gap, that will depend very much on the capacity of public development banks. So for me, this is a very important initiative here. And yeah, so maybe just to conclude, I think Financing Common Innovation Lab presents a real unparalleled opportunity, I think, for all of these, for all of you to become mobilizers in chief. And that, I think, can happen through this customer-centered approach where we really build and work off the priorities and the needs that all of the banks here have. So I very much look forward to working with all of you, supporting the development of this lab. And I think I'm just closing. Actually, Remy, this is for you. We've been talking about this lab for a long time. So we always say, let's fix it. So let's fix it.
Thank you very much. And yeah, we want to now hand off the floor and just invite again all of you to come collaborate on this. And I think there is an important step in 2024 in Asia when we will have this new Financing Common Summit in 2024 to also show the first results that will come out of this Financial Intervention Lab. Following on Barbara's presentation, we will move to the panel conversation and will be moderated by Mrs. Kate Warren, Executive Vice President and Executive Director at DEVEX. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Adema and Barbara, for really, I think, helping to set the stage for some really exciting innovations in climate finance. So we are going to dig into that in this panel. The distinguished panelists to my left probably do not require introduction, but I will introduce them nonetheless. We have to my left Mr. Remy Roux, who is the chairman of FIX. We have Mr. Ambroise Fayol, who is the vice president at EIB. Mr. Javier Diaz, president at Bancoldex and co-chair of IDFC, and Mr. Pablo Saavedra, vice president for the World Bank Group. So thank you all for being here today. So Remy, I would like to start with you. We just heard about this proposed financial innovation lab. I'd love to hear how you think this lab and other innovations in financial instruments can really help accelerate the transition to sustainable development practices. And then also in particular, how it can encourage and attract more private capital and encourage more integration of ESG into mainstream finance.
Thank you, Kate. Can you hear me? And good afternoon, everybody. It's many friends in this room. So it's good to see you all together. Six is all about innovation from day one. It's I think it's an innovation in itself that could unlock way more innovations. That's really the purpose. Just remember that it was born in a COP setting. The idea came from COP21 when we reached that Paris agreement. Barbara was there compiling figures. Ambroise was there too, and many colleagues. I think we understood at that time that well, international and national are linked, and that the answer will come from both dimension articulated. I think we understood that we needed an answer that would be at scale of what we are facing, and that probably each category, highly fragmented, of public banks were not at the scale that was required, but that altogether, the 2.5 trillion, I don't know, we can track now maybe 500 billion euro climate finance in this group. We do not know exactly, but that we were beginning to have something consistent and helpful, and that the answer would come from cooperation and innovation. And we needed some sort of safe place in order to share maybe the questions we had, the innovations we were incubating, each of us in our region, in our country, in our ecosystem, I would say. So that was the main place, and of course to create a safe but widely open place, so that to come to your answer, other stakeholders, governments, of course, supporting, but also central banks and private finance would be welcome, and civil society, all those that could play a part in this transformation. So that's the beginning, and then we had the first phase of building up of the initiative. So I think it from 2020 when we launched it up to 2023, and this June summit on a new global financial pact in Paris last June. This was the building up of the coalition, and last June, thanks to EIB was there from the start, the African Development Bank, IDB, now AIIB, and the World Bank, of course. We are now all in somehow. We the IDFC members and with the World Federation of DFIs and its regional pillars that help gather all the public banks within FIX. So that was phase one, and now comes phase two, where the expectations are very high. Uh, we know that, we feel that, all of us individually and collectively, and we have to find a way to deliver and to answer and define together what we want to deliver. So Cartagena was a start. So a strong ask by colleagues for technical assistance, capacity building, so that we have a sort of level playing field, and we are able to originate and co-finance more easily than what we did before. And innovation, I think innovation is key. So thanks to CPI with its vast experience in dealing with innovation processes. So we will rely on you, Barbara, and all colleagues. Thanks to Steve, thanks to IDB, thanks to all those joining the lab and help us identify what would be the main topics. Of course, without the idea of fix is really not to overlap with existing discussions, processes, coalitions, groups. It's maybe to extract what useful comes from these group coalition initiatives and share them as widely as possible, and maybe identify, I would say, orphan questions, themes that we could incubate at the perimeter and the level of the whole family community of public development banks from day one. So you mentioned local currency, you mentioned CRDC, these contingent clauses for debt reduction, of course. You mentioned carbon markets, of course. What the World Bank is launching has to be shared with all public banks so that each and every of us in our constituency, we can help these markets become sincere and mature. And probably this morning I was with many mayors on municipal financing. We know it's a key issue, direct access, direct financing for non-sovereign entities. Well, I stop here, but I really see a strong value in this network of innovation labs because we are all in this business of innovating for so long at the scale of FIC.
Yeah, and we'll be able to hear a little bit more from you later in today's session. So, Amroz, I'd like to move over to you. Public development banks often work in environments with very heightened risk, particularly in developing economies who are those most impacted by climate change. So, how are public development banks managing that risk while also trying to maintain progress on sustainable development with climate resilience?
Um, can I be very direct? I would like actually to follow up on what
Yes,
Remy
please.
just said rather than answering this question. Um, when when the first FIC meeting started, um, EIB was part of it because we believe in the concept. But I have to say that also it was a friendly gesture from us to Remy to help the start of this initiative. And it started in a very difficult time because of COVID. And actually, you have seen the move in the years. First years was really online. The second line was in Rome, mixed. The third was in Abidjan when you saw how well people like to see each other again. And it was mostly in corridors, actually. And the fourth in Cartagena, and thanks a lot to Bancadlex, to IDB for having to CAF for having organized so greatly this event was really substantial. Not only corridors, also meetings were substantial. And I think this is what what has been achieved thanks to the FIC and thanks to the work of Remy. And I say that because these days there are not that many places where you can have institutions, public institutions, from all over the world, from advanced economies, from emerging economies, from developing countries, together with multilateral development banks to discuss together issues of common importance, such as climate change. And really, this is a major achievement. And I think you will see with the next events that we will have, how important it is to have this kind of places where you need to share experience and to share views on issues of common interest. And completely consistent with all the debate that take place actually in the G20 on the on the capital adequacy framework, etc. The second thing that I would like to say to Barbara. Um, I think the topics that has been chosen for the Innovation Lab this year is really interesting because these are issues where at least we MDBs, we are struggling. We know that local currency is key. We know, and all our partners in the field tell that, but we have not found the way to be efficient there. Um, we know that we need to include climate clauses to our contracts, and we have actually at EIB decided to do that. But it is full of legal, financial, technical clauses that make that difficult, and we need to work on that. And actually, more generally, I think we need to work really more on what exactly we mean by doing more guarantees, doing more de-risking. How do we do the private sector mobilization? The private sector mobilization is just for the private sector to come at a level of risk of OECD. That will not bring us to the level of financing that we need. So this is where I think your support could be extremely interesting. And I will finish by saying one thing. There is one nexus that I find extremely important for the future. This is the nexus between climate and health. The impact of climate change on health, you see that by the day is becoming more and more dangerous. And I think this is our responsibility as public institutions to work more on this. And I would love that the FIC is taking the lead on it. Thank you.
Thank you. And appropriate given Health Day here at COP. So Javier, I'd like to move on with you. Considering the very ambitious goals of the 2030 Agenda and Paris Agreement, how are public banks thinking about realigning your portfolios to meet these goals? And what are some of the real operational challenges of doing that? And what are some of the ways you're seeing these be overcome?
Thank you, Kate. Let me start by greeting my fellow panelists. It's an honor to be here with you again. Last time we were together was in Cartagena, and special greeting to all the guests in the room. I'll get to that question specifically, but before that, let me again tie into Finance in Common and a number of concrete outcomes that have happened after Finance in Common, which was only 2 months ago. So I think Finance in Common came to Cartagena as a forum, but it came out of Cartagena as a movement. And concretely, we have seen, for example, the Green Coalition, which is spearheaded by the IDB with the support of the World Bank and CAF. The Green Coalition is now a reality. It has an infrastructure, it has institutionality, and it put the focus on the Amazon, which was desperately needed. So that has happened around Finance in Common. Another very important initiative is only recently, a few weeks ago, we met with local governors and mayors recently elected in Colombia. They haven't taken office yet, and we're already talking about subnational lending. and mobilizing capital at that level. And I have to thank DAF as well for that, because it was out of Cartagena that this meeting was spurred. And now, before they come into office, they already know that they have access to the power that is here around the room. So I think those are nice examples of how we came out of Cartagena as a movement. And to your question, I think in the immediate future, it's all about lowering the cost of capital, because we remain in a very high interest rate environment globally. And the pain in that regard is felt deeper in countries such as Colombia and others in Latin America. So we put the focus on Latin America, and we have to work together on lowering the cost of capital. I couldn't agree more with Ambroise on the fact that guarantees are going to be needed more than ever, because it's not just about getting cash. Cash is a commodity. Price of cash is actually the trickier part, but guarantees actually deleverage risk and a number of other things. So we need guarantees more than ever. And I think again, Finance in Common put the focus on guarantees. And then another specific example I would like to cite, speaking now about Bancoldex, is we were rated by S&P on our ESG practices. And it's not evident that S&P or other rating agencies actually give you a rating on ESG matters, but they do. And for us, it has worked wonders, because, and we actually got a good rating. The down part of it is we learned that we're good on the S, on the social, we're good on the governance, but we still lack on the E. So it served wonders for us in terms of our ratings, but it also served to learn that we can do much better. And only a fraction of our portfolio is purely green. So it put the focus on how we need to do better. And again, tying into the whole movement of fixed, these are the kind of concrete examples that come out of now what is a movement. And that's the way we're tailoring our portfolio. 2024 is looking challenging. I think we all thought that interest rates would be going down faster, but they are not. So we have to be patient, but we can't be patient because we have to act on a sense of urgency. So I think working together on lowering the cost of capital is going to be the key to navigating 2024 and continuing the good things that came out of Finance in Common in Cartagena.
Thank you. And Pablo, first, if you want to respond to any of the other panelists, feel free to do so. But I'd like to understand how the World Bank is supporting the greening of the financial system. And I know you've been doing some work with national development banks, and maybe you can share some of those examples of a way that you're developing innovative finance mechanisms with them.
Sure. Thank you, Kate, and good to be here again. It's a great follow-up after Cartagena, and seeing faces and colleagues that were there in Cartagena is great. Let me start with some of the aspects of how to green the financial sector in which the bank has been working a lot. The first one is, and obviously it's also has an influence on significant on public development banks, is the issue of having quality of data and meaningful disclosures to support investors, mainly the green taxonomies. And countries that have undertaken the work on green taxonomies, good examples, Colombia and Mexico and others, have benefited from that already by having a number of bonds, label bonds, green bonds, that have helped raise significant resources in the markets. So that's one aspect very specific that we are following. There is around 30 countries that in which the World Bank is working now on this area, because it's very important to align the green taxonomies of the countries with the international standards to not avoid fragmentation of the finance sustainable finance market. So that's a work that we think is critical. Second, as it was mentioned earlier, the bank has started also a private sector investment lab, and the idea is to come with innovative solutions to the critical issues of bringing private capital for climate. There are a number of discussions that are taking place in the context of this lab. One of them, for example, is related to guarantees. We would like to have a better treatment of guarantees in terms of regulation. and the capital that is assigned to guarantees, that would help us to leverage much more the guarantees, uh, get more resources to countries, and also collaborate much more with public development banks. We do some of that, but it's still limited. And of course, we have also worked recently in terms of for example, the carbon markets. We have launched an initiative. We have 47 countries already. It's related to deforestation, and of course the standards that come with that, and the credits, the carbon credits that can be gathered by countries with our support. So there's a large number of topics. One last topic on this is the issue of forex risk hedging. There's a lot of interest on that. IDB just did something with Brazil. We're working on several alternatives as well. And I think here we have to have two buckets of solutions. One for the immediate solutions, which are facilities, credit enhancements, things that can work now. And there are many other ideas outside MDBs and that are aimed for that. But also we need to think about sustainable, very scalable solutions for the medium term. And that includes developing further domestic debt and capital markets. Let me stop there.
Thank you. And we will open up to audience Q&A in just a second. And I believe we might have a mic that can run around. So hopefully there's one. If not, I can hand you mine. But I just want to thank all the panelists, and I think all of their remarks demonstrate how valuable FIX is and this innovation lab, and how there are a lot of innovative ideas out there. There's also a lot of challenges and opportunities, and being able to come and work together and collaborate, hopefully we'll be able to move forward with urgency that we need. So if there's anyone who has a question, feel free to raise your hand. Yes. Do we have a mic or me? It's me. Okay.
No, more than I'm Anderson Silva from the IDB. No, so more than actually a question is to complement what was discussed here about the innovation lab that was presented so well. No, so besides inviting all the public development banks to join, which was mentioned so many times here, I wanted to reinforce one point. There is a very a large gap in terms of research and innovation done by national development banks and subnational. A lot of the studies, innovations, they come more from the multilateral side, which also have a gap. No? So this innovation will be covering this gap that is so important in terms of knowledge, but more importantly here, on the points that were mentioned by Javier, the importance of using of credit enhancements, but how this lab can be powerful in actually connecting multilaterals and national development banks in terms of trying to find affordable ways of doing more mobilization. So I think in all the different topics that I agree they are very well picked and very important, I think that these efficiency gains in the use of credit enhancements using multilateral development bank access and potential of mobilization with the public development banks and subnational banks being able to have that capillarity that multilateral development banks can never reach. No? So I just wanted to complement that and have another invitation for the participation in the lab of everyone.
Hi, my name is Jacob Stewart. I represent Instituto de Montaña out of Peru. But for the past 2 years, I've actually been working in research on public development banks alongside Thomas Marwa. And in FIX that was held in Abidjan, we produced a report that looked at multilateral development banks financing national development banks. So I'm kind of carrying on the sentiment that was raised earlier by the representative from IDB. And I'm quite interested to hear in what ways you feel you can create innovation for a gap that we found in financing biodiversity, where we actually had asked each of the development banks submitting a survey to 9 multilaterals to see if they had financed any beneficiaries in biodiversity on the national level. And the response was 0. And I'm just interested to hear if there's anything, even from the innovation lab's perspective, if that might be something that's on the board. Thank you.
Maybe maybe just react. First of all, I forgot to mention that the heart of Finance in Common is the work that was done by the academic world, uh, researchers. So we started with this, would say, friendly but external look at us, because it's not about promoting public banks per se. It has no sense. So the idea was really to have academics help us measure what we were talking about. And so the heart of Finance in Common is the database that we are refining year after year, and the numbers that are beginning to come out of it. And I really want to support what Pablo said about datas. I mean, now that we have set the perimeter of what we're talking about, there's so much data mining to do. Of course, if all of us we open our books, but we know we are in the process, thanks to EIB and other MDBs, to do that for infrastructure finance through the GEMS database. Probably other banks at the time could join also to help private investors better measure the risk of new markets, frontier markets for them. So this set of research data mining is certainly something that needs to, and including for biodiversity, which comes immediately after climate. I wanted to answer Ambroise, for all of you to know that we have a coalition for social investment within FIC, and colleagues decided that their main issue for consideration will be the nexus between climate and health. And this is the Health Day here at COP28. And I think they decided it last July. They've already made 5 or 6 meetings altogether. There was an event I couldn't attend because I'm here on this very precisely here at COP. And I think we have 20 public banks, many multilateral, including the World Bank that is extremely active, but EIB is there as well, IDB, and of course fellow national, subnational development banks. So it's a work that is ongoing. Maybe we would need research also on this at a time. And the last point I wanted to make to answer Javier and Ambroise is I really think we should think about this CAF work again at the level of Finance in Common, because we can press the MDBs as much as we can, but we know that there is a lot of capital in public development banks that is under leveraged. If we think about well, maybe in this very country or neighbors or elsewhere, and so probably thinking about how the so precious resource of MDBs could help leverage balance sheets that are underused, and of course engage these institutions to go in new markets, to go in Africa or to go where they're not investing, would be a more promising way of dealing after having squeezed as much as we can MDBs. The question will still remain on the table that we are not at scale of what we are doing, and the question of the cost of capital in so many markets and the use of the balance sheet of international institutions to guarantee and de-risk local institutions to help them also originate the projects we need would come differently from, I think, what's in the debate now at the G20 or elsewhere.
Thank you. Anyone else want to respond to that? Yeah.
Just to add on what Anderson was mentioning earlier, I think there's a number of gaps that we have. One important gap, and it's a very obvious one, very basic, but still we have not breached it, is the pipeline of projects that are available at subnational level, at local levels. There has been a lot of progress. I mean, and there are many initiatives to improve that. But when I have been meeting with investors over the last 3 months, and they coming and they say, we would like to understand better all the pipeline in emerging economies of all the projects that there are. So for multilateral development banks, it's very hard to do that. We have some idea, some projects, but national development banks, public development banks have a much better understanding of that. So put the pipelines in a very transparent way in websites, as some development banks do it. There are many examples of that. Having a good sense of that will be very helpful, because that connects both the national development banks and the multilaterals, and also connects investors, local and domestic. So everybody can confluence and see where is the best allocation of capital. Again, we have made a lot of progress. Many development banks do that, but there's still a long way to go.
Thank you. Yeah, can I just add, just to confirm what Remy was saying on GEMS, we really think that data is a public good, and together with the multilateral development banks, we have worked a lot to come to a point where this data can be, and actually with a lot of public development banks, through this GEMS initiative, to come to the point where we can share this data outside of the group, which is really something that's going to be very interesting. That will come early 24. And the second thing is, there are things that are not sexy, but that are very important. And you were talking about biodiversity. There is something that is extremely important, which is to understand and to agree on what you call nature positive based investments. And on that, there has been a lot of work in a group of multilateral development banks. And we come to the point here where this will be announced. So how you identify, how you track, how you monitor nature positive investments, that will be one of the thing that will be announced here in COP28. And
you.
we NDBs.
Any other questions? Yes, I see one there. Maybe somebody can help pass the mic.
Thank you, Joseph Tyrrell from the Children's Investment Fund Foundation. I think the first thing to say is how incredibly proud we are to be working with CPI and with FIX. I know that so much work has gone into this behind the scenes, and we've really done very little apart from hand over some money for it. So there's absolutely no thanks to us, I think, and all the thanks to Barbara and Remy. But it's also just the start, I think. Philanthropy is also underleveraged from my perspective. It'd be really interesting to hear from FIX and from representatives of the MDBs about where you think we can come in further and faster, particularly, I think, working with public development banks in the lowest income countries. Yeah, thank you. Would you mind handing that? Oh, sorry, there's another question. Sorry.
No, I can try to answer. First, by thanking Sif for the dialogue for a long time now, and also for your capacity. I remember discussing with Kate, Michael, you about it. Your capacity also to explain other philanthropies what this place is about, and count on us to consider philanthropies for what you are, like all the stakeholders within the finance in common. You really is really to better identify the added value of each actor and try to invent solutions together. So philanthropies are not there to do the job the governments have to do. you do not have enough resources probably, and these resource, and at the same time what you can do is really push for innovation, because I think that's what you are searching, and push for scaling up solutions that would come out of innovative processes. And I hope together this is the kind of forum, this is the kind of place, not with all of us, but maybe with subset or regional groups, that will happen. I was in a meeting with all Rwandan colleagues. Jean Pem was there as well for the bank. Another vice president of EIB. All of us, we were there, and the capacity to innovate of I would say, the Kigali Financial Center now, between the Ministry of Finance, Central Bank, development bank, innovative fund, commercial banks, all together, setting new taxonomies for climate, um, trying to mobilize private finance. I mean, I'm just thinking about it because innovation is not only separate; it's also there are places of innovation, and certainly I invite all of you to pay attention to what is happening now in Kigali and elsewhere. But it comes to my mind because it was extremely impressive, including the use of SDR, because the IMF with DRST is also investing in this setting, this place, and the Rwandan government is trying to leverage its SDR also through the balance sheet of public banks, local public banks. So it's really very, very special, and maybe we miss you in Kigali, but you're most welcome.
Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me? I would just like to add that in Cartagena, we had a voice and a seat at the table for philanthropy, also for civil society and human rights advocates. So it's not just about public banks and typical and traditional lending. I think at least these three interest groups are actually quite active and growing ever so within Finance in Common.
Well, I think that is, there's skeptics of these global convenings like COP28, but bringing all of these actors and stakeholders together to find these commonalities and ways to partner, I think, is one of the real values of a convening like this. We would like to pause there. I would like to thank all of our panelists. Mr. Remy, we'll have you stay on stage, but let's give a round of applause to everyone. Thank you. And then I would like to introduce President Jen from AIIB to the stage. Mhm. All right, we are all mic'd up, ready to go. Well, thank you, President Jen, for joining us. So I have a question for both of you, but I will start with you. So looking ahead at the priority areas for PBDs and the Fix initiative, can you talk about what you're envisioning and also maybe elaborate a bit on how you envision private sector, civil society being involved so that we can realize this vision of sustainable development and climate action?
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's my great pleasure to share with you Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank's ideas and actions in working with the other MDBs and the development partners to deal with the most serious challenges faced by the humanity. From day one, and I would say the bank was up and running in January 2016. We are 8 years into operation. From day one, this bank was committed to support broad-based economic and social development through investment in infrastructure and other productive sectors. And the bank was set up right after Paris Agreement was entered into. So we have a mission that this is to support Paris Agreement to deal with climate change. And starting from July this year, all of the projects financed by Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank is Paris aligned. Now, we understand fully that a single development bank is limited in its capacity, and we have to work with other MDBs as a system and development partners like AFD. Remy is a good friend of mine. We work together and thinking about how we can support the countries which need the help most. So we are very inclusive, very open. We, as a member of the Multilateral Development Bank, we work together as a system. And this is, I think this is a new consensus. World Bank, EBRD, AIB, and ADB, we work as a system. But you see, we should understand that all of the resources pulled together is still limited compared to the vast needs. What is the need? So far, we have only $653 billion per year for climate financing. What's actually needed is 4.3 trillion US dollars. We need $150 billion from 2023 all the way to 2050. And on average, we need $3 trillion every year. Where is the money? I don't think all of the MDBs and plus any other public, development institutions together, it's a drop in the bucket. That's why it's crucially important for us to work with the private sector. Now, every day, trillions of dollars are moving around the planet. What are they doing? They're trying to find a landing spot. They try to find a place where they can establish themselves, not just to making money, but also to help with other investors to sustain themselves. Many businesses or financial institutions must be able to sustain themselves, but they really need great partners. I think they need two things. One is a very good macroeconomic situation and a regulatory environment. Policy predictability is the key. I don't think the private sector simply categorically looking for investment which would offer highest possible return. No, they would forgo the highest possible return in favor of low return but predictable policy environment. I think that we should understand this. And people tend to talk about private sector companies, they simply want to make the most of money. That is no longer true. And also, private sector companies they care very much about their reputation, ESG. If you do not take care of ESG, I don't think many people will be happy to work with you. So what we do is not simply provide financial resources. We want to work with the host members to improve the macroeconomic situation, to improve the predictability and ease of doing business in those countries, and to, generally speaking, improve the regulatory environment. And this is what we must do, and we have to do well.
Thank you. Good call to action there. Remy, your thoughts?
Let me first thank President Jean for being here. After I mentioned President Adesina of the African Development Bank, I mentioned President Goldfajn for IDB, President Hoyer for EIB. It's so important President, to have MDBs leading on this, hosting and setting the tone and the agenda year after year about the finance income. And of course, it comes from the institution, but at the time you need also you, Jane, and colleagues to give us their vision. And as you said, to open the door, the arms, and embark as many partners as possible. And we, we have to turn east next year and go to Asia after Europe, Africa, and Latin America, and maybe we can turn back to President for this.
Well, thank you very much. We really enjoy very good cooperation and friendliness toward this bank from many legacy institutions, our peers. And in particular, I enjoy working with Remy, and AFD has been very much supportive, and you have very good experience working in many countries, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa countries, right? So I think you can help us. Now, I will take advantage of this opportunity to share with you something very important, and we would like to support FIX. Okay? So in 2024, AFD and AIIB are going to work together to host a meeting of Financing Commons Summit in China. Okay. And I hope you'll be coming. I promise I will find a very nice place for you to have the meeting. Not necessarily in Beijing. Maybe I can find some place where you can enjoy the biodiversity. You can see how China protects the biodiversity, what China is doing to deal with climate change. So we are working towards this objective. I want to make this event a great success. And we are certainly, AFD is our major partner, but I would invite all of the MDBs, heads of MDBs, join us, different partners. China is big. No matter how many people you come, no problem, no problem. And I can assure you, the local capacity is very strong. Anywhere we go, anywhere, we can make sure that you will see with your own eyes a developing country such as China from 1980, $280 per capita in 40 years' time. How China has developed to such an extent. You see for your eyes. You know why this bank was called Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank? Because we look at the emerging market economies in Asia, including China. They invest in infrastructure, paving the path for sustainable development. What do we do today is not to design, implement, and maintain an infrastructure projects the way we did 20 years ago, 30 years ago. The new infrastructure, we call it infrastructure for tomorrow, must be designed, implemented, and maintained in a new way, which is climate sensitive. And with new technology, it is possible to build infrastructure which will be conducive to climate change mitigation adaptation rather than create emission problems. I think we need to change this mindset as if climate infrastructure projects which absorb 70% of the emissions. So if you do something, you are making the matter worse. No, we are making the matter better. So how we do that? We need to take advantage of new technology. Technology enable infrastructure development, and we should be more cost effective. But I think any development bank is limited in its capacity, in its idea, intelligence. We need to work together. Okay. So the combined intelligence and wisdom can make us do a better job. So I'm very much confident that this joint venture between China and and France and all these countries working together, particularly with AFD and AIB, could be yet another milestone following Cartagena. And I like to highlight 3 priority areas for the next phase of FIX initiative, which I think is very much important. First, climate action and sustainable development. Public development banks, MBIs can and must prioritize investment towards climate action. Okay, we have to keep this in mind, and mitigation, adaptation, and conservation. And as I said, we should not pit infrastructure investment against climate change mitigation and adaptation. They should come together. Second is inclusive finance. Inclusive finance important because they are closer to local communities. Public development banks play a critical role ensuring that economic growth benefits all segments of society. Now, I want to highlight the point. Only when the people in those areas are benefit by the investment we make, could we make it possible for the people to be the best guardians of environment. They will see with their own eyes how investment would help these people out of poverty, how this investment can improve sustainable development. This is very much important. Now, if you do something and people cannot benefit from that, people even get hurt by those investments, how can you make sure they would be supportive of this kind of investments? So I think we should have a fundamental change in our mindset. Inclusive finance, including the local people, so that we all work together. And finally, digital transformation. Technology is crucial. It's crucial for economic development. Now we are working on the new, I think, technology to do the infrastructure projects. Some people are very much worried how soon we can phase out these coal-firing power plants, how soon we could upgrade all the grids, transmission power grids. And some people say, well, the life cycle is long. And some low-income countries are grappling with their budget problems. How can you tell them to phase out this coal-firing or polluting projects? Because there's still lots of residual value. My point is, as we all invest in new technology, the technology-enabled infrastructure projects would give us something which would be really, really important for transition towards net zero. And you don't have to worry about residual value of the investments you made 20, 30 years ago. Give you one example. You see, the airline companies, they phase out all those aircrafts with huge residual value. But they know when they buy new fleet, saving 40% of the fuel, in a matter of years, all those fuel savings, not just for financial significance, but also to deal with climate change, you all get it back. So in my view is, as long as we invest in R&D, in developing new technology, all those the so-called residual values are insignificant, and we could leapfrog to new technology. So there are lots of things we need to do, but we need to work together. The MDBs may not find it possible to pour money in the new technology without testing, but we work with other development partners, we can do it.
Great, very well. And, working in media, we love it when we can break news on stage. So very exciting about fixing in China next year. I was at a conference in Hangzhou earlier this year, which was a beautiful city, if I may throw that suggestion into the ring. But Remy, I would like to go to you for closing remarks.
So I told you President Jean was full speed behind Fix, and that his personal drive would be so helpful. So that was my promise, and it was satisfied. thanks to you and thanks to AIIB colleagues. As you said, Fix is an open place, so I'm pretty sure at FIAP, for instance, the coalition of all the public banks in Asia and the Pacific. We had discussions with the Asian Development Bank as well, and maybe a lot of other colleagues would join in supporting the summit by the end of the year. I also want to inform colleagues that we are in discussion with the government of Brazil, the municipality of Rio, to do something probably bit more technical alongside first semester an event to support the G20 presidency next year. So probably if, first semester something and the big summit in China second semester. And I think that's extremely exciting for all of us. On the dates, they are not set yet. What we are thinking is second semester, depends on when COP will happen, etc. My point is, it will be positioned between 2024 and 2025. And we know 2025 will be extremely important for sustainable finance because it will be the 10 years anniversary of Paris, of New York and the SDGs, Sendai, and also the 10th anniversary of the Addis Abeba conference. And maybe if you go back to the Addis Abeba action plan, you will see that UNDESA at that time planted somehow stealthily a sentence about regrouping all public development banks. So it was also there in 2015, and the new financing for development summit will take place spring of 2025. And so I really see our initiative, our summit end 2024 to provide a significant contribution to help the narrative, the mechanisms to be better captured in the conclusions of this 10th anniversary summit of, well, this Addis plus this summit. On the attendance, we will turn to you, of course, President, but FIX is not only about public banks. So we hope that in China, there will be also maybe a bit more central bankers, maybe a bit more private sector, of course, civil society as well, research, all the stakeholders of finance in common, maybe in different proportions than the years before, but making it even more vibrant, collective, exploring the synapses between various communities, turning to sustainable action. And last, on the content, thanks for these ideas. As you know it, there's a governance within FIX. There's an executive committee about every trimester that is gathering. And so we will have a discussion also in this setting on how to build the program and see what are the main achievements, issues that we could explore at this moment, second semester of 2024. So count on me, of course, to keep that governance as active, inclusive, and to the point as possible, following, of course, your proposals and your guidance, President, as the host. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, mark your calendars and stay tuned for more details to come, I'm sure. Well, thank you both so much. And thank you to our audience who joined us.
Welcome. Welcome to China.